to about 2,800 just to get a little bit more glide time. And I'm just gonna kind of walk through it as I go. I wait till my spot's about lined up with the trim strings. So auto rotation in 3, 2, 1. Lower collective with right pedal, a little bit of half cyclic or rolling off the throttle. I'm gonna give a little pitch pull, which is just me raising the collective a little bit to catch our RPM. I actually raised a little too much, so I'm gonna lower it again. I'm just gonna keep a scan going. RPM, airspeed outside. RPM, airspeed outside. My airspeed's trending down a little bit, little forward cyclic. And bottom of the green, not bad. I'll actually let it dip a little lower. I'll probably get the horn here in a second. There we go. But I'm getting close to my flare, so I don't mind. I'm gonna start giving some half cyclic, start building my RPM. I'm gonna crack the throttle above 80%. Governor has the throttle. And raise with left pedal. All right, so what do you think? Kind of fast, right?
Yeah, I think the only thing...
You have controls?
I have controls. The only thing that kind of freaks me out is when you initially drop the collective.
Yeah, you get that transitionary period where you kind of get light in your seat, and that's where you're going from, you know, those rotors pulling you through the air to basically falling, and then the air driving the rotors. And you know, that's why we have to do that pitch pull. So lower collective, right pedal, a little bit of half cyclic. The half cyclic, why? Because when we drop the collective that fast, the nose of the helicopter wants to drop as well. So it's going to put us in a nose down attitude. That half cyclic is just enough to keep the nose kind of level. And then after we roll off the throttle, so lower collective, right pedal, half cyclic, or roll off throttle, wait for a second. Like in literally 1 second. And you'll see the RPM start to trend upward. That's when we're going to give a little pitch pull. We're going to raise the collective just a little bit to catch that RPM. Because what's happening, we're transitioning from that, okay, the rotors are pulling the air, to okay, now the air is driving the rotors. And as that fall starts and the air starts to drive the rotors, they're going to start to speed up. That check, that raise up of the collective is to catch those rotors and maintain a constant RPM. If we don't raise the collective, the rotor RPM will continue to climb. We're basically adding a little drag to the system to keep them under control. All right, whenever you're ready, call on the go. There we go, 2,900. We enter our auto at 70 knots. The glide should be done at 65, but that's probably going to happen automatically if you do your entry right. That little bit of half cyclic is going to drop you down, change your attitude a little bit from 70 to 65. And then we're just watching this rotor RPM needle, just trying to keep it middle of the green. Towards my flare, I'll sometimes get it low into the green. Getting into the yellow portions on the gauge, that's okay. We just want to keep it out of the red spots. Alrighty. Which are at just under 90 there, just at 110. Alright. Bring her around. Alright.
Alright, drop collective.
Yep, we're going to enter auto rotation in 3, 2, 1. So lower collective, a little bit of right pedal. Give me some half cyclic. Roll off the throttle. A pitch pull. Alright, give me a little, lower the collective a little bit. Forward cyclic for airspeed, you see we're at 55 knots. Don't worry about that horn, you're gonna get used to that. Alright, now we're about at 65, so give me a little half cyclic to hold that. Raise the collective, because that half cyclic is gonna force more air into the rotor system. Okay, I have controls.
You have controls?
I got them. Watch your pedals, you're stiff on me. Not bad for your first auto. I know things happen fast, you tend to lose track. I just wanted to take control there because our rotor RPM started to go down on us.
Alrighty.
Alright, so in the auto, what happens? We've got our rotor RPM and our airspeed. Those are the two things that we need to maintain. Your airspeed was getting a little low. You gave the forward cyclic, you lowered your collective a little bit, and we got back up to our 65 knots, and our RPM was actually pretty good. Once we hit that 65, you kind of started to hold aft. I think it might have just been tension kind of causing you to pull towards yourself.
Yeah.
That's when our airspeed started to go down, down, down. And I think you were raising collective a little bit too at the same time because our RPM was also coming down. In theory, if you give aft cyclic, your airspeed's going to go down and your RPM is going to go up. Why? When we give aft cyclic, we're tilting that rotor disc back. We're allowing more air under the rotor to drive the rotors, so it'll make them speed up.
So it's like pitching it.
Yeah, you got it. Think of you're flying the disc. So think of it like you've got this disc on top of the helicopter. When you pitch the disc forward, down with forward cyclic, less air is getting under it, so the rotor RPM is gonna drop. When you tilt back, more air is pushing those rotors, so your rotor RPM is going to increase. You can actually do an auto with nothing but the cyclic to control your RPM. That being said, you know, if things go awry and your airspeed's low and you have to give forward cyclic but your RPM is already kind of low, then you can lower collective as well, because if you give that forward cyclic when you've already got low RPM, you're going to reduce the amount of airflow coming through the rotors, which is going to bring it even down even more. So you'd have to lower the collective a little bit to decrease the drag in the system to compensate. It's a lot, I know. It'll come to you. All right, you have controls?
I have controls.
You've got them. Whenever you're ready, we'll call on the go. Alright, gonna do the same thing this time. We'll enter the auto. I'll be on the controls with you, helping you out.
Alrighty.
Try not to fixate on your airspeed or your RPM. Try to keep your scan going between the two, RPM, airspeed. Generally, you want to look outside as well towards our spot. Like I said, we're not working on accuracy too much right now, but we can start developing that scan, RPM, airspeed outside, judging your distance to your spot, your altitude. All right. At about 40 feet is when we start our flare, so about treetop level.
X-ray Hotel, pulling from 30 left hit.
34 X-ray Hotel, North Las Vegas Tower, stand by landing traffic.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
And auto rotation in 3, 2, 1. The lower collective right pedal, a little bit of aft cyclic. Roll off throttle. Give a little pitch pull. Alright, there we go. So RPM's in the green, airspeed's coming down. Give me a little lower collective and forward cyclic. We'll do both of those.
Alright.
Don't forget to hold your throttle. Don't, not yet.
Nope.
Nope. Don't worry about that horn, we're fine. Now we can start giving aft cyclic for a flare. Don't raise the collective.
Nope.
30 left for takeoff.
Roll the throttle on. There we go. Left pedal. Hey, we even came pretty close to our spot. Look at that.
Alrighty.
Not bad.
I'm confused about lifting collective.
Yes, you are. I was about to bring that up. You're getting your collective inputs mixed up a little bit.
Yeah.
You were wanting to raise collective in the flare, which our RPM was already pretty low, so we don't need to do that. The idea of the flare is that we want to build our rotor RPM. So by lowering the collective, that's actually going to impede that from happening. You're tensing up, you're pulling the cyclic towards yourself, which is causing us to slow down, and you're almost always raising the collective a little bit throughout the entire auto. And that could be, again, tension. I see that a lot. You get tense, you pull the collective and the cyclic towards you. So you're slowing us down and dropping the rotor RPM.
Well, I think it's naturally now I start feeling the drop and want to pull collective.
Yeah, and that's another thing, you know. That is the instinct sometimes. Oh shit, I'm falling. Raise collective. That's what fixes that, you know. And that's another one of those instincts that'll get you in trouble when you're in something of power. Is you know, pilots. Oh shit, I'm falling. Let's raise collective, and that's just going to exacerbate the situation. In this case, it's just going to drop our rotor RPM. the
North Las Vegas Tower,
the tension in the cyclic, you gave a little bit too much aft,
approach.
and that was right on entry. You were kind of pulling it towards yourself, and the rotor RPM spiked. That's why you felt me make those huge inputs right at the beginning, because we almost oversped there, so I had to raise collective, and that didn't stop it, so I punched the cyclic forward a little bit. So you'll feel me make inputs like that. That doesn't mean I'm coming on the controls. I'm not coming on the controls unless I say I am. I'm just going to help you occasionally.
Yeah.
All right, let's try that again.
All
We
right.
actually got that one down to the flare, so we're making a little bit of progress. All right, so and remember on the way down, we're flying the disc. Picture a disc on top of the helicopter and what's happening when you make those cyclic inputs.
Right,
All right.
we're going to request
So we want the drop.
Yes, that's normal. We need the drop to drive the rotors. And that initial light in your seat feeling is just the transition between powered flight and gliding flight.
All right.
It's perfectly normal. You know, relax, guy.
315 Julie Tango North Las Vegas Tower, NRA left base runway
A little high.
Yeah, it's all right. That gives us more time to glide.
left, 5 Julie Tango.
All right, clear, right?
31 Whiskey, terminate your approach now, start a right turn direct low mount.
Watch that drop in the turn there. The last two entries as well, you've let your airspeed drop in your final turn, and we've actually entered at about between 65 and 70, closer to 65, which has kind of messed with us a little bit.
Okay.
55 Bravo Hotel, North Las Vegas Tower, you're loud and clear. Roger. 79 Mike, runway 3
All right.
left.
All right.
And auto rotation in 3, 2, 1. Lower collective right pedal, a little bit of aft cyclic. Roll off throttle, give a pitch pull. And lower the collective a little bit. That was a little bit too much of a pitch pull. Little aft cyclic to slow down. That'll also bring our rotor RPM up. See that?
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Fly the disc. Don't pull too much aft. If your airspeed's already dropping and your RPM's low, let's lower that collective. Here comes the flare, so start giving me some aft cycling nice and slow. There we go. Crack the throttle up to 80.
contacting Dallas Tower.
Forward cycling.
Cessna 61,
Not bad.
for uniform, runway 30 left, take off.
Like I said, it happens fast at first. It's going to start slowing down for you. That was pretty nice. Just remember that forward cyclic to level out right there at the end.
Tango, runway 30 left, cleared to land.
As you're raising collective, you're giving left pedal, you're just holding the flare in. That one went pretty well. The pitch pull was a little too big
Runway 30
at the beginning.
land.
You raised a little bit too much collective, so just a little less next time. That caused our RPM to drop. And it worked out. We were actually going a little fast. We were doing about 70 knots, so you were able to just give aft cyclic, which was nice for us, because we were able to watch, okay, yeah, RPM is low, airspeed is high. I'm going to give a little aft cyclic. That brought your airspeed down, forced more air under the rotors, and brought the RPM back up. Now, afterwards, we continued slowing down, and I believe you lowered the collective, or raised the collective a little bit, and so now we were slowing down below 60, which we want to hold 65, and your RPM was low, so you had to lower the collective a little bit, little forward cyclic. But if your horn comes on, I don't care, as long as we're not hitting that 90%. A lot of times you're going to hear the horn, that's no big deal. I don't want you to freak out about that. A lot of times I'll bring my horn on purpose right before the flare. If I know if my RPM's nice and low at the bottom of the green, then I can get a really good flare. Because we're limited in the flare by how much the RPM builds. We can only go up to that red line up at the top. So if, we want to stop and bring our airspeed down as low as possible, we can lower our RPM, and that way we can give that aft cyclic. We can ride that flare out longer, take a longer time to build those RPM up. So, I'm not worried about the horn.
Okay.
Is what that tangent was all about. All right, we'll do one more.
All right. Alrighty. Now I just want to drop collective, aft cyclic, pull up coming in a little slow.
There we go, we got it back. All right, auto rotation in 3, 2, 1. Lower collective right pedal, a little bit of half cyclic, roll off throttle.
Pull it up.
Yeah, a little late on that. All right, now relax. Lower your collective a little bit. There we go. Now your RPM's gonna come up because you're gonna need to give a little bit of half cyclic here. Maybe not, we leveled out.
Alrighty now.
Coming up on the flare. Nice. Building that RPM up, crack throttle.
Oh, anticipated it.
A little bit.
Oh shit, came in way too early with that left pedal.
But I think you're starting to understand what's happening, what the controls do.
Yeah.
You know, your first 10 autos are going to be sloppy. That's just all there is to it, and we're going to tighten it up.
I mean, but I felt like I got it, and then that left pedal kind of creeped me out.
Yeah, you flared maybe a few feet too high.
Oh, I felt too low.
Yeah. And you know, I kind of held your flare in check for just a second, and then I let it develop. And one thing that happened is, yeah, you actually it happened kind of fast, so I don't know exactly the sequence of events, but it felt like you gave left pedal before the throttle came in.
Yeah.
Which caused a power drop. We actually lost a little bit of RPM.
Yeah. You know, coming into a hover, left pedal, I threw it way too early. I don't know why.